Okay, hello. So let's talk about this book, The Plague by Albert Camus, the French Algerian philosopher. He's written lots of really good books. I will be doing a review on his book, The Fall, fairly soon when I get a chance. Also, The Stranger is another really good one. But The Plague, it's really relevant to today with the coronavirus. People are going mad for it. It's become a bestseller on Amazon at the minute. There's a free version on YouTube as well if you want to listen to it. But really good book. Really interesting how relevant it is to what's going on today with the lockdown and the government. So it was written in 1947, set in somewhere called Oran in Algeria, and it kind of talks about the government's really slow response and how they don't want to upset anyone, don't want to cause panic, and that seems to be the main thing they're concerned about, which you can kind of understand, but it soon becomes apparent that the virus is spreading really quickly and people are dying really quickly. So, you know, first of all, something very parallel to what's happening here, it would seem, particularly the way the Tories are sort of portrayed in the media. They seem to be very they're trying to be very kind of statesman-like and relax and don't want to upset anyone and cause any kind of panic, but actually the numbers going up pretty quickly. And it just doesn't seem to be a very strict lockdown, which is causing a lot of concern, and so that's very similar to the book. There's the main protagonist in the book called Dr. Ria, I think it's Rieux, and he talks about how common decency is the only way to deal with the virus, and from that he means that he'll just continue to do his job and that everyone should do their job. So his is treating patients, so he'll continue to do that, and we're seeing that as well. We're seeing these NHS staff doing an amazing job, putting their lives on the line, no matter how slack these idiots in the public are who keep going out and ignoring the advice. They are still picking up the tab and getting on and working and dying, unfortunately, and that's pretty disgraceful, really, that people still don't get the message to take responsibility. And that's really what the book is about. It's kind of talking about this fact that we are so much more vulnerable than we realise. We're far too arrogant in lots of ways. We expect things just to keep going the way they always have done. We expect the NHS just to carry on the way it always has done. We expect to have our technology and our warmth and our heating and our comforts and everything. We just don't take the time to sit down and kind of think about how bad things could actually be. And I did a bit of a chat the other day about Jordan Peterson, one of his interviews with Dennis Prager, and this is something I talk about in other videos as well, is the idea of having gratitude and being grateful for what you do have. And actually, until you actually sit down and think and take a few minutes in the day to actually think about how bad things actually could become, set your arrogance aside, set your ego aside, and actually think, my God, what would happen if an even worse virus came, or something happened to my family, or we were attacked by another country. It doesn't take much thinking to realise how horrendous and horrible things could become. So actually being grateful for what we do have, although it's a broken system and it's not perfect, and there are really rich people and really poor people, there's always going to be inequality, unfortunately, and that's something that we need to get better at, but it's something we seem to be struggling with. And maybe this virus is going to be a bit of a leveler in some ways, although the cynical side of me thinks that once we're over it, we will pretty much go back to the way things were fairly quickly. I think that's just human nature. But I think being grateful and realising what we do have, rather than kind of constantly looking at the stupid little things that we don't have and constantly being angry with people, is a good way to be. And this story kind of talks about that really from a different time period. It's very relevant to today, actually. It's this idea that we can all be struck down at any time, so we should be grateful for what we have. We're not invincible by any means whatsoever. Our economy is taking an absolute battering. It's going to go on for years. We could be in lockdown for quite a long time yet. Okay, so one of the quotes that he says that he has in the book is, and I'll read this one because I don't remember off the top of my head. He says that the good man, the man who infects hardly anyone, is the man who has the fewest lapses in attention. And by that, I suppose he means the people who make sure they wash their hands, they make sure they keep their distance from people, they do those little things, those little kind of taking personal responsibility things that a lot of people who are arrogant don't feel they need to do. They almost feel as though they're above it. People are still going out and meeting in, groups of people, and second homeowners are coming down from wherever and staying in their holiday homes. And it's this message that society needs to take personal responsibility therefore for everyone else as well, and just do your bit. If you have a job to do your job. Dr. Ryu is a doctor, so like a lot of the NHS staff, putting his life on the line to treat people. And whilst we live in a world where there are people who are prepared to risk their lives for other people, it would be quite nice if the other people could take a bit of responsibility and kind of reduce the risk of that happening as much as possible, really. I don't think that's too much to ask, really. And that is kind of the message throughout the book. It's a really good book. It's quite haunting, it's quite depressing at times, as you'd expect, being about the plague. But there's a few sort of religious suggestions and stuff in there that are quite interesting, just moralistic things, and I just found it really interesting. It's really popular now during this time. I noticed that the YouTube version, the audio version on YouTube's gone from about 57,000 views to about 90 odd pretty quickly. So it is very popular. It's selling out on Amazon and stuff as well. So I just wanted to have a quick chat about it, really. I've just recently read it, really like it. I think Camus is a really interesting writer. So I would definitely say give it a go. If you're someone who is feeling depressed and anxious about the virus, maybe not. Although in some ways there are some positives to be taken from it. It depends on how you look at it, really. But it's definitely a very good book. Highly recommended.